Amen. God bless you, friends. Thank you once again for joining us on the Sunday morning. We are slowly inching our way toward the conclusion of this series that we started almost 10 weeks ago. And we're in week 10 of our series by faith. We're kind of zipping through the book of Hebrews, and we're almost there. Next week will be nothing changes. Next week will be the last sermon in this series. And so this morning, I want to talk about faith that holds on. Faith that holds on. And we're going to read Hebrews 10, verses 35 through chapter 11, verse 2. Hebrews 10, verses 35 through chapter 11, verse 2. You know, when I was young, I was thinking about this week. I used to climb my house. And I'm not talking about the structure that we have today. Back in those days, it wasn't very high, and you could easily climb it if you wanted to. And I would climb it, and I would, kind of like monkey bars, I would just, move my hands like one by one and try to get to the other side. I would hold on the ledge and just kind of move and get to places. And sometimes I'll be so up high, and it wasn't that high like today's homes, but at the same time, I knew if I didn't hold on, I would hurt myself. And so I would hold on tight and just move and get from one side of the building to the other side, and it was fun. Call me crazy, but it was fun. But I think the writer of Hebrews is trying to say the same thing when it comes to our faith. He's essentially saying, hold on. Hang in there. Hold on to your faith as tightly as possible. Don't give up. Let's read what he is saying here, because it's a beautiful picture that he paints for us here. Hebrews 10, starting in verse 35. So do not throw away your confidence, for you will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. For in just a little while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. But my righteous one will live by faith, and I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. Let me read that again. I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. Chapter 11, verse 1 and 2. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. If you have confidence in God, do not throw it away. Hang tight. Hold on to it as tightly as possible. So the word "so" connects directly with everything that came before. And the phrase "throw away" is strong, almost forceful. It means to discard, to abandon, to cast away. It's like when you don't know the value of something, you just cast it aside. That's not how the writer of Hebrews wants us to treat our faith. He wants us to know that our faith is our lifeline. He wants us to know that our faith and our confidence and our hope in God is everything. So hold on tight. Hang in there. A farmer, when he discovers a good seed, what does he do? Yeah, he plants it, but before the season begins, before it's time to plant it, he would store it away. He's so careful with that seed. He doesn't treat it like all the other seeds. He stores it away, and he makes sure that it's not mixed with the bad seed. He would take the good seed, he would separate them from the bad seed, and he will make sure that it's in a safe and secure place, because he knows how valuable it is. He hangs on to it until it's time to plant it. Sometimes that could be weeks, sometimes months, and he would save it until it's time to plant that, because he knows how valuable the seed is. He knows the provision that could come from that seed. He knows the harvest that could come from that seed. That seed has the power and the potential to save his family, to provide for his family, and maybe even his community. Imagine you had to take a long journey through a dry, barren land. And the land is cracked, and the sun, there's scorching heat, and you're carrying all this. You're carrying a backpack, and what's really weighing you down is not your backpack, but it's a giant water bottle. You know you need it, but then somewhere along the journey, you say to yourself, man, this is too heavy. I can't carry all this water. And so at some point in your journey, you say to yourself, I'm going to throw some out. And you do it. You throw some water out. And then you continue on your journey. You're relieved that you're kind of, not that burdened anymore. But then as you move forward, as you continue in your journey, the sun begins to draw out your strength. And you reach for that water once, you drink some, then a few more times, and then you realize that you have a long way to go, but you have no more water left. So instead of holding on to what's necessary, you let it go thinking, let me lighten my burden. But then what was your lifeline? You let it go. You didn't hold on to it. That's what the writer of Hebrews is warning us against. He's saying, don't treat your confidence in God like it's something that is weighing you down. Don't let that happen to you. There are so many people around us that they've treated their faith in God, their confidence in God, like carrying something really heavy. No, that is what's going to sustain you. That is what is going to move you forward. It is not extra weight. It is your lifeline. So trust in God. Don't let go. Listen again to what the author is saying. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. So hold on to your confidence. It is worth more than you think. I think there's a great danger here. When you let go of what feels heavy in the moment, you may be discarding what you need the most. I think about Esau, the firstborn son of Isaac. He was a hunter, and he came home one day. He was tired and exhausted. And in that moment, all he was thinking about was what? I need some food. He saw his brother, Jacob, making a nice, stew, and he smelled it. It was like, I need that. I am so tired. But what did he trade for it? He traded away his birthright for a bowl of stew. But according to the Old Testament, that was God's promise. God's promise to your generation. If you were the firstborn, God promised His blessing over your generation. But in that moment, all he could think was about food. And he traded away his birthright. It's as if it was weighing him down. And because he did that, he suffered the consequences. He suffered the consequences. Or consider the disciples in John 6. Jesus had just fed the 5,000. And then he was talking about how he was the bread of life, and there was a huge crowd following him. Everywhere he went, they were following him, and Jesus talking about how he's the bread of life. But then in the same chapter, he gives that verse a different meaning. He talks about how they need to eat the body and drink the blood. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What is he talking about now? Of course, Jesus is talking about his sacrifice on the cross. And so he was literally saying that you are going to have to eat the body and the blood, drink the blood, as in communion. That reminds us of his great sacrifice. But they couldn't swallow the hard teaching. Listen, friends, if you're only going to go after what sounds good to you, I'm telling you, you're not going to grow. You have to be able to listen to and be able to digest hard teaching. And so to many disciples, that was hard teaching. They liked it when Jesus said, I am the bread of life. But then when he talked about his own body, they thought that was weird. And they turned away. But Peter stood there and he spoke on behalf of all the disciples. And he said to Jesus these words, Lord, to whom shall we go to? Because he recognized that this man, the Messiah, he is the way. He is the source to eternal life. And I believe the writer of Hebrews is echoing the same words. It's the same call. Do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. Friends, confidence for a Christian is not optional. It is essential. The people receiving this letter, the letter of Hebrews, they faced severe persecution. They went through trials. They went through so much hardship. And the writer of Hebrews was telling them, you need to receive this hard teaching. Hang on. I know it's tough right now, but hang on. Don't give up. Like me hanging on to the ledge on the top of my home. I knew if I let go, I'm in big trouble. So I would hang on until I get to the other side. Hang on to your faith. You know, life has a way of wearing us down. Some struggles hit us hard. And then there are some struggles, you know, we don't know how it's going to compound and we're going to have to deal with it later. I mean, think about like the moment we wake up. You wake up tired. You wake up looking at your alarm clock as you treat it like your enemy. You wake up tired. You wake up like this. I just need a few more hours. The battle begins the moment you're up. And then before you can get ready and go to work, you know, if you have kids, they're arguing in the background and you're on your phone looking at emails that you got to respond, meetings you got to attend. The battle starts bright and early. And sometimes it's so challenging. Even those little things, it just weighs us down. And then there are things, the big things of life. You're at work, your doctor calls you, you weren't expecting it. And at work, in the middle of you're working and he gives you a news you weren't expecting about some lab result. And now not only your day has gone down the drain, but your whole countenance has shifted. Or maybe it's your job. You had confidence, everything was going to be fine. You were coasting at work, and then now all of a sudden, your job is in jeopardy. And you're starting to feel it. Maybe it's a financial struggle. Everything was going well, but then now all of a sudden, it's becoming hard. There could be so many reasons. For some, it's the quiet ache of loneliness. For some, it's the pressure of financial strain. And then there are the spiritual struggles. For some of us, you want to pray, but you don't pray because you feel like every time you pray, it just hits the ceiling. It doesn't go past that. Like, God, are you even listening? Are you even seeing what I'm going through? Are you seeing the struggles? And it's in those moments where you feel your faith feels more like a question than a certainty, and you feel like God is distant and silent. You see, struggles take many forms, but they all share one thing. If there's one thing that's common in all of our struggles, it's this. All of these things have a way of sometimes convincing us that we can't go on, that we should give up, that you're a failure, that you can't move forward. That's what's common. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be as simple as not getting enough sleep. That could weigh you down. You could treat that as the biggest problem. Sleep is, of course, very, very important. It could be anything, but it just sucks the joy out of you. Struggles tempt us to give up, to let go, to lay down what feels too heavy to carry. That's why the writer of Hebrews speaks with such urgency and compassion. Do not throw away your confidence. Don't do it. Hold on. You need to persevere. Think about that. The very thing we're tempted to cast aside, our faith, our confidence in God, is the one thing we can't afford to lose. Because your faith is your lifeline. Your confidence in God, godly confidence, your faith in God is your lifeline. It's not extra weight on your shoulders. It's not baggage that is slowing us down. It is the lifeline that carries us forward. So again, the writer is saying, don't let go, because the reward that God has promised is greater than the struggle you're experiencing, going through. And we get this principle in other areas of life. The athlete spends hours in the gym training for what? For prize, for a medal. And he would train for months and years just to be able to win. A mother doesn't give up. She's pregnant, and for 9 months, the pain and the discomfort, she bears it all. Why? She hangs on. Why? Even the pain of labor, because she knows that the joy of holding that baby is worth it all. A student spends how many years? A child spends how many years in school? 12 years, grade 1 through 12, and then college and bachelor's and master's, maybe even doctorate, just to be able to provide for themselves. Think about that. But they hold on. They don't give up. And we tell our children the same thing. Don't give up. Hang tight. And so we see this principle in different areas of our life. And I think the same is true with our faith, with our walk in Christ. Every time you choose to keep believing that it will be easier to give up, every prayer you whisper when words are hard to find, every tear you shed in the quiet place, every act of obedience when no one else sees, none of it is wasted. That's what he's saying. None of those things is wasted. None of it is meaningless. All is seen by God, for in due time you will be rewarded. I don't know how many of you need to hear this. Hang on. Hang tight. You will be rewarded. Persevere. Don't let go of your lifeline. It is not baggage that you're carrying. It is not going to weigh you down. I'm telling you, it's going to keep you up and moving in the right direction. The struggle is temporary, but the reward is eternal. That's why we don't give up. That's why we keep going. That's why we hold on to our confidence. You see, I've met people and I've worked with people who have lost their confidence. And boy, that is hard when you lose confidence. When you lose confidence in workplace. Think about what I'm saying. Your confidence in your ability to be able to do what you're asked to do, what you're getting paid to do, if that is shot, you're in trouble. I don't know how many of you have experienced that. I've worked with people, I've talked to people who, especially coming out of COVID, of course, a lot of people went through this. They forgot how to live their daily life. They just couldn't. Everything was fine. But then one day they wake up, it's like, I don't want to go to work. Why? They don't know how to verbalize it. They don't know how to talk about it. It's confidence. Confidence is shot. A mother who wants to give up, a father wants to give up, a couple who wants to give up. Confidence is shot. A lot of what we do, friends, it's It's not. We think it's skills, we think it's experience. Yes, those play a big role, a huge role, but it's confidence. Confidence. That's why this is so important. Your confidence in God is the glue to everything else. Your confidence as a father to be able to provide for your children, that is everything. Because when you have the confidence, even if you lose your job, you can be like, I'm going to find another one. Your confidence as a mother to not give up when it gets hard, when it gets difficult, to not give up on your relationships, to not give up on your health. Have you noticed that? I don't want to offend anyone, but there's a lot of people walking around, they have given up on themselves, on their health. It's confidence. If you have confidence, you will build the discipline. What I'm trying to tell you is that your confidence in God is everything. Everything else hinges on your confidence, so do not throw it away. I'm saying basically what the author of Hebrews is saying. Hang on. Hang on. The struggle is temporary, but your reward is eternal. The heartbeat of Hebrews is this: keep your eyes on Jesus. You know what we need? We need godly confidence for our earthly problems. That's what we need. Godly confidence. I know some of you have experienced that and you have it. And then there are some of us where we're missing that. We have confidence, but we don't have godly confidence. I'm telling you, in this long life, in this journey called life, you will need godly confidence to be able to conquer your demons, your challenges. You need it. So hang on. Hang on. But then comes the natural question, how long? Right? We've been talking about hanging on. Like me hanging on to the ledge, not let go and look down. Man, I don't want to let go. I want to get to the other side. But how long? It's hurting. I can't. But I'm right in the middle. It's like if I go left, if I go right, it's the same distance. What do I do? How long more? Verse 36 gives us the answer. It's about patience and perseverance until the promise is fulfilled. Verse 36 says, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. So keep going until the promise is fulfilled. Keep going until the promise is fulfilled, because the reward outweighs the struggle. Keep going. Never give up. We're talking about God here. God keeps His promises. His words are true. He is forever. He will bring you to the finish line. He will help you. Friends, perseverance is what bridges today's obedience to tomorrow's promise. Let me say that again. Perseverance is what bridges today's obedience to tomorrow's promise or reward. You see, perseverance isn't glamorous. It's not the moments or the moment of victory on the mountaintop. It's not the instant breakthrough that everyone wants to post about on social media. Perseverance is in the unseen, the steady decisions, the daily decisions, the in-the-moment decisions that you make in life. We can all talk about faith. We can brag about faith. But when trials hit, when you face a challenge? Do you have the in the moment? It's like, Michael Jordan, I think somebody asked him, like, you have all these crazy angles, like the way you shoot, like you jump up and then you have all these moves. How do you do it? Like, do you think about those things before you jump? What did he say? He said, no. When I'm in the air, I just do it. I just move my body. It's those in the moment decisions. In the moment faith decisions. I'm going to hold on to God. You're praying and it feels like a burden to you. In the moment decision, no, I need to continue to persevere in prayer. I need to continue to persevere in my faith. No, the enemy's telling me to go here, do that, and that is not pleasing to God. I need to persevere and say yes to God and no to the enemy. To say yes to what's righteous, to say yes to what's godly and just and true, and no to what the enemy is saying. I'm going to persist. I'm going to persevere. Perseverance is what bridges today's obedience to tomorrow's promise. Think about it. Obedience today might feel small. It might look like showing up for prayer when you're tired. Isn't it amazing how prayer ministry in all the churches have the smallest number of participants? I'm not talking about our church. I'm talking about church in general. Prayer, whether it be a Tuesday night prayer, Wednesday night prayer, has the lowest number of participants. And yet they all know the power of prayer and why we need to persist in prayer. Is it a really difficult thing? Do you need a degree in prayer to be able to pray? Why is it so hard? You see, I'm telling you, friends, we easily let go. These things become a burden. You see why the author of Hebrews is stating a simple, basic fact. Don't let go of your confidence in God. If you know that God hears your prayers, if you know that you have godly confidence that He's going to come through for you, then why don't you pray? If you know that God's Word has the power to transform your life, what is stopping you? It has become a burden. That's why. Persevere. Perseverance. That is what bridges you. Today's obedience is what will bridge you to tomorrow's reward. You see, perseverance doesn't erase the difficulty, but it ensures that difficulty does not define you. That's the difference. And the writer of Hebrews reminds us that perseverance is not just passive waiting, it is active endurance. It is faith lived out in real time, step by step, day after day. It is trusting that God sees, God hears, God remembers, and God rewards. So friends, if you feel weary today, if you feel tired today, remember this: perseverance is the bridge. Every faithful step you take, every prayer you whisper, every burden you carry in obedience to Christ, these are the steps that God uses to take you from here to where He has promised He will take you to. So, don't stop building. Don't stop walking. Keep going, because tomorrow's promise is certain, and it is worth every step of obedience today. He is faithful. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we Do not give up. Do not give up. Do not give up. Keep going. Paul is saying the same thing the writer of Hebrews is saying. Keep going. Don't let fatigue, discouragement, or delay rob you of the reward that God has already promised. There is harvest ahead, but only for those who keep sowing. Only those who are planting seeds, they're going to enjoy the reward. And those who don't, unfortunately, will not. There's a promise on the horizon. But again, only for those who keep walking forward in faith. So I'm going to close. I don't know exactly where you are in your faith today. Some of you are strong. Some of you are journeying or running the race with endurance. Your confidence is steady. Your faith is vibrant. To you, I say, keep going. Keep going. Don't coast. The promise is closer than you think. But then there are some of us who feel weak in our faith. Maybe the weight of life has worn us down. Maybe it's unanswered prayers. Some of you have been praying for the same thing for years. For 5, 10, 15 years. And so the weight of unanswered prayers has weighed you down. To you I say, don't give up. God hasn't forgotten about you. He hasn't forgotten about you. Trust Him. Again, it goes back to confidence. Hang tight. And if there's someone here and you don't yet know Jesus personally, you've heard of Him, you've heard about Him, but you've just admired His teaching, but you haven't trusted Him personally, to you I say, today could be the step. That one step that you take, a step of obedience, that will take you places that you never even dreamed of. Today could be the starting point. So wherever you are, strong, weak, or searching, the invitation is the same. Keep going.